Flames, they're 2-1-1. Started off with a overtime loss to Winnipeg, and they came out firing, man. That first period against Winnipeg, I was like, wow, this team is like much improved from last year. High expectations. Markstrom looked incredible. And then the inconsistency that's plagued the Flames ever since they won the Stanley Cup reared its ugly head, and they played horrible second and third period. And the Jets came back to win that. So that was kind of like a bummer. But then the next game, they played a home and home against Vancouver. They ended up taking both games, and Markstrom looked incredible. This is the goalie that Calgary has needed ever since Mika Kiprusoff left Calgary. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he will be a top 3 goalie in Flames history by the time he retires. And by the time this contract is up in Calgary, there'll be like debates. It'll be like Vernon, Kiprusoff, and Markstrom. Because this guy, I know it's only been 4 games, but this guy is exactly what Calgary has been looking for and what they've needed ever since. Like, you look at the goalie carousel that Calgary's had: Kari Ramo, Reto Berra. You're talking about Jonas Hiller. You're talking about Brian Elliott, and it's just a laundry list. Cam Talbot, David Rittich, and just a laundry list of goalies that just couldn't grab that brass ring and take it. Markstrom's that guy. He is a workhorse. He's played all 4 games, and he looks really good. And another player that looks really good is Johnny Gaudreau. Coming into the season, there was a lot of question marks because he had 99 points 2 years ago. How dare he get 99 points? There was another player that wore number 99, so you should never even get 99 points.
You should ask permission. That's bullshit.
Yeah. You should have asked Wayne if he could land on 99. And then the next year, he dropped down to like 60 points. And this year, he's back and he's firing on all cylinders. He's got a point in every game. He's got 5 points in 4 games. And, I give him a little slack. I remember another player in Calgary who wore number 12, Jerome McGinley. He came on the scene. He got 96 points or whatever, won the won the Art Ross Trophy scoring race.
Didn't he tie for something? What was it again? Where he tied a goalie.
Oh, he lost the Hart Trophy to Jose Theodore. That's why I'm still bitter at Montreal media there.
That's what it was. I can't remember.
Garbage. What's Theodore doing these days? I don't know. What's Ginla doing? Getting ready to go into the Hall of Fame. Just saying.
Living in Boston.
Getting interviewed on the news about a snowstorm.
Local Canadian.
And no one knowing who he is.
I'm from Canada.
He was so nice too, right? Like, just Jerome is just a nice guy. He had a breakout season, and then the very next year, he had a down season in the 60-point range. So it does happen, it's a lot of expectations to go from being a 190-point player, and every team like keys on you. You are the guy, and I think it takes a while to kind of get used to that. And Gaudreau is showing that last season was more of the anomaly, and hopefully more of the 99-point Gaudreau is going to be this year. And going back, and so then they had one game against the Leafs. That was not a great effort. I would say by the 4th line of Calgary, specifically Lucic had a couple moments there. He took a couple stupid penalties, and Lucic knows better. He was really good in the playoffs for Calgary. And this season, it's a slow start. But you know what? I think Lucic he's a little bit older. He'll need a little bit more time to get up to speed. He had a slow start last year. They don't really need him to come out this year early on. But in the playoffs, if he can make an appearance again like he did last year, that would be great. And speaking of Lucic, a lot of fans in Toronto are upset at this guy over here. Where is it? Matthew Tkachuk, for what happened at the end of the game with goaltender Jack Campbell. And a lot of fans are saying, "Oh, it should be suspension," and there's no suspension. There was no penalty. And then they're saying, "Oh, Wayne Simmons is gonna, take things into his own hands, and he's gonna punch his face in next time they play, which is tomorrow." And I'm saying, you know what? There's a reason why you bring in Milan Lucic. He's the heavyweight champion of the NHL, and that's because Matthew Tkachuk shouldn't have to fight. If Wayne Simmons wants to fight tomorrow, and if the Leafs feel like they need retribution for the horrible things Matthew Tkachuk did last game, that shouldn't be up to Tkachuk to answer the bell. That should be Milan Lucic stepping in and protecting his star players. That's why he's getting paid $5 million. Like, he's got
the bell, Chucky. Answer the
he
bell.
doesn't have to, man. When you're a top line player like that, you don't need to fight. And you have players like Lucic on your roster, let him fight. Because you don't want to lose Tkachuk to the season for breaking a hand in a fight or something, right? So
this is kind of going off topic, but I never understood that. The whole argument about fighting was that they could police themselves. But the person who actually commits the crime never ends up actually doing the fighting. It's one guy's tough guy against their tough guy. It has nothing to do with the actual person they're upset about. So it never made sense to me.
Not always. I think the thing is you got to go back, like it's older times, and what you say, it's true. Like there's stories where guys policed it, where they would hit a star really hard and then be like, I'm actually going to beat the crap out of your star player, or I'm going to beat the crap out of you if you do that again. Right. And guys didn't. And I'll even give you an example with Tkachuk. Lucic sat on him and just pushed in on his head. Like, he never fought him, he never did anything, but it was a deterrent, being like, if I decide to, you're going to lose this, right? So, but you're right, like it's never like those guys fight, but at different times I do wonder if like the fan base knowledge around how players think is very different from actually how players feel, because the whole media thing around Tkachuk and Kassian last time was, well, he doesn't have to fight, blah 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 blah, but he went out there and fought. So why did he do it if he didn't have to, and media backed him on it? Well, because probably in his room with his guys, they were like, yeah, fight him. You need to fight him. Mm-hmm. Just saying. Why else would you do it then?
Yeah, he probably won a lot of players over, right, in the Calgary dressing room, because Kassian is a heavyweight, right, and Tkachuk's more of like a middleweight. So
I think most people think Kassian's a middleweight now too, but yeah.
I mean, not in today's NHL. Kassian's a big boy. There's not a lot of like enforcers out there. Like Kassian would be like in the top echelon of fighters, I would say.
I think so. What do you feel about the defense this year? Yeah, that's fair. What do you feel about the defense this year, Sunjay?
To be honest, I've been pleasantly surprised with Chris Tanev. Coming in, again, it's a thing where you don't watch a player all the time. You just look at the stats. That's the first thing you look at, and you go, okay, doesn't put up a ton of goals, doesn't put up a lot of points. We're losing TJ Brody, bringing in Chris Tanev. That's a net negative for Calgary. But if you look at the way he plays the way I hoped Hamonic would have played when he was brought into Calgary. This is a hard-nosed defenseman who blocks shots a ton. He's great on the penalty kill, and he can play top 4 minutes. He is excellent. Like, I've been really impressed with him, and also with Anderson. He's a young defenseman that's coming up, and he's now anchoring the number 1 power play on Calgary. And he's been terrific. He's averaging over 20 minutes a night. And as Giordano gets a little bit older, that's going to take some of the strain off him, because last year, in my opinion, Giordano had a bit of a down year. Coming off that Norris Trophy, maybe expectations were a little too high. But I think he just played a ton. And as he gets older, he can't be playing 25 minutes, 22 minutes a night like he used to. So seeing the emergence of Anderson and Hanifin and Valimaki, like the Flames have a good young D-core. Then you also sprinkle in the veterans like Tanev and Giordano to kind of mentor those young players. So all in all, I've been happy with the defense, to be honest with you. I know like they've only played 4 games, but I would say really my only negative would be probably just like the fourth line is just still finding its way. But, if that's your biggest gripe on a team, you're doing something right? Like they played the least amount of minutes. So, I mean, they're 2-1-1. It's hard to know too, because they've only played 3 teams. So it's hard to know, but I've been pretty impressed with Calgary this year. Yeah, they and Jeff Ward has done it. I think he's done a terrific job with that team. So,
you're going to find out soon how good they are. I think they're playing like 8 games in 14 days or something like that in this next stretch here. So we'll find out how good they really are.
Very weird, because they got that like 5-day. Yeah, which you could think it's like they get to practice some, but they looked rusty against Toronto. Coming in that first period, passes were kind of missing, shots were off. It was a little bit. You could tell like the rust had hit them, and it's a good. Some ways it's good because then you get to practice like your breakouts, your power plays, but you can't simulate that game shape, right, that game experience, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I do think like practice is a big part of it. Like most teams, I think you're looking at some choppiness because guys aren't getting it. And the Flames do have that. Like they did get that chance to practice, but I think you're right. It's the how do you simulate games? And people are dealing with the fact that crowds aren't there. You were talking about Lucic. You can't tell me he doesn't feed off of a crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like that's something that's going to be hard for him, I think, too, this season. And lots of guys, to be honest with you.